Welcome to Talking Ball with Bill Flowers. I'm your host, Stephen Willis. We're going to be talking about Egg Bowl. We're going to do a little Egg Bowl story time. We're going to talk a little bit about the Vandy game, but that's more along the lines of if there's any situation Bill played in where the Vandy game was in such a valley. It's one of the most trap games Ole Miss has played in the last 15 or 20 years. But how you doing, Bill?
I'm doing good, man. Getting ready for Thanksgiving. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing quite well. I'm getting ready for Thanksgiving as well. It's just a little bit probably differently than you are. But let's get right into it. We don't have a lot of time today, but the Vandy game, it was an ultimate trap game, and they played like it was a trap.
Yeah.
Honestly, they played like they spent the whole week preparing for Mississippi State. I mean, that 100% on their mind, that was just to get me through it. Is there anything like that in your playing career that you went through?
Oh, for sure. I mean, you gotta remember, this is a huge game for Vanderbilt, and Vanderbilt's had some games this year where they've played really tough. So it didn't surprise me. Like I told you before, I would love to see our team to be able to come off at the end of the half, but Vanderbilt's going to play you tough, and so nothing surprised me. Um, it was kind of what I thought. I said I'd be shocked if we could come off it at the second half because most likely Vanderbilt's going to give you everything they've got, and you've got a short week coming up. You want to be able to focus on state. Kiffin's probably wanting to create the least amount of work for them, so it didn't shock me.
Okay. But in the end of the day, we talk about how it looked, and everybody is down on it. It was a two-score game from the beginning of the second quarter. It was never really in doubt. Now there was a chance it could have gotten scary, but it didn't quite do that. But moving on to the Egg Bowl, real quick. Go ahead, Bill.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say you got to remember your offense is not utilizing its main weapon, which is Matt Corral's legs.
Mm,
So he's just not. I mean, he's not nearly as aggressive as he was against Tennessee.
mm,
So that's one of the things that when you look at everything, you're like, okay, you got to take it in perspective. Are they maximizing full effort and giving everything they've got? No, because they're trying to protect themselves. Uh, for not only for Vanderbilt but for the Egg Bowl and beyond. And so that's another thing that I think some people just don't realize is, hey, you're not you're not playing with the full deck of cards. Like
mm.
they're still trying to they're managing stuff, but not playing at 100%.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised if Matt Corral was under strict orders not to run against Vanderbilt. Give it one more week of rest and get ready for the Egg Bowl.
Who, by Kiffin or his agent?
Both.
Yeah,
Yeah, because this game is important. I mean, if Ole Miss can win this game, Ole Miss has a chance to win the most games ever in a season that it has in its history. They can get to 11. Ole Miss has never won 11 games in a season. That's a fairly big deal from where I sit, as somebody that's been a
that's a
fan
huge.
for
That,
40 years.
yeah, that's huge. That's a huge deal. I think, and Mississippi State is peaking at the right time for
Mhm.
their program.
Yeah, and before we get into the Egg Bowl preview part of it, anything about the Egg Bowl memories that you can share from your time going through it?
Uh, Man, just that. I remember my freshman years when they had the brawl. Uh, or the year before. I mean, that's. I remember David Morris, who was the backup quarterback behind Eli.
Mhm.
He's from Mobile. I asked him. I said, "What's the biggest difference between the Iron Bowl versus the Egg Bowl?" He said, "Bill, it's a really nasty, uh, um, visceral relationship between the players for the Egg Bowl. It's more of a visceral situation for uh, the fans for the Iron Bowl." And so I remember just us sort of looking at them as a little brother, and them always being a lot uh, more tuned to wanting to fight, wanting to. But I mean, their freshman year that was like that was a great year they had, and that was kind of the best. That was the top Egg Bowl that I remember. It was my true freshman year because it was more relevant than usual.
Mm. Yeah, and this year one team going for 10 wins, the other going for 8
Yeah.
wins. I mean, it's high stakes. It's the first time since probably 2015 it was fairly relevant, but 2014 it was really relevant.
Yeah. Well, and I think right now you have two programs uh, that are on the cusp of really moving to the next level. More so, Ole Miss than State. I think State's got a couple. I think State has a couple more years of having to put themselves up there. I mean, listen, Ole Miss has gotten to the point where if they win against Mississippi State and Kiffin stays, I think they get put up into that next tier for the SEC West.
Hmm.
If we lose, then I think you stay in the middle of the pack tier. I think if State wins, they're still in that tier. But there's a lot they're playing for. I mean, they are chasing Ole Miss in recruiting and just trying to. I mean, you've got this huge um, social media figure, celebrity coach at Ole Miss. You're trying to do everything you can uh, to whittle that down. And so Ole Miss is playing for that next tier. That you know what we get a top 10 recruiting class. Should that shock you? No. Does it shock you now? Yes. But I think that's where we're playing for is that next tier level. And I think I think Ole Miss. If we play well and play to our abilities, our pass defense is sort of where we shine because it's less than focusing on the run. I think we have opportunity to win. But they're a great team peaking at the right moment. I would not want to play them a second half of Auburn game.
Yeah, and we're recording this Tuesday afternoon about 4 o'clock. And I say that to say this: it's forecasted to be 30 degrees and raining during the game. That has to be a positive for the Ole Miss offense.
Well, you
The run
trigger
game
back
specifically.
you triggered back that memory of me in 2003, Eli's senior year, with pouring down rain, the Egg Bowl in Starkville. That was miserable.
Well, tell me about it. I
Oh man,
remember. I
it was
remember two
raining.
things from.
It was just
Go ahead.
raining and pouring. It was raining and pouring, and it was just nasty. I mean, it was just one of those moments where you're just like games are like getting you out of here. Like this is just nasty.
Yeah, I remember two things from that game. One is Eli's pass to Tremaine Turner, where it looks like he
Yep.
falls over in the end zone, and the other is a crackback block of all things on a punt return, to where
Yep.
it just blew a guy up cracking back, and those are the two things
That
I
was
remember
Chad
from that
Pilcher.
game. Who?
That was Chad Pilcher. Chad Pilcher.
Okay, yeah, he just I don't know if I've ever seen somebody get blown up on a punt like that.
That's Chad. Well, he's from Birmingham. He was a milk man. He was a milk mustache, like Sports Illustrated kid, walk on. He was a great athlete. Was from Louisiana Monroe. Quarterback. I think he won a national championship in high school as a quarterback. Came to Ole Miss, played baseball and football, and was kind of like a utility, player. And this senior year, they put him at up back. And and you could tell he was getting his brains bashed in. And so he'll say his claim to fame in football was the Egg Bowl, with him putting that waylay on that player.
Yeah, when people talk about, if y'all don't remember seeing this, there's the cleaters and there is the top of the helmet is the first thing that hit the ground, and that's what he did to that
Yes.
state player that day. It was
Yeah.
unreal.
Yep.
So let's transition over. We only have about 9 minutes to do this. A preview of the Egg Bowl this year. What are the keys for Ole Miss winning this game from your perspective?
Well, I think you pointed to the weather. I think it's going to be establish the ground game, establish the 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 physical nature of creating the ground game, controlling it. I think that's going to be our biggest focus on offense. I think defensively is getting pressure, not letting Will Rogers sit back there and pick you apart. I would like to see, close coverage, man, knock him off the routes and put as much pressure you can on Will Rogers to keep him from wanting to make those throws, and then obviously, not allowing them to get their ground game, because if it's gonna be that cold and that wet, it's they're gonna want to tap into their run game, and so they're obviously a much better passing game than a running game, but we need to make sure that we get them in their out of their comfort zone by putting pressure on them.
Yeah, and Ole Miss is going for its third win out of its last 4 trips. It's hard to believe down to Starkville. But that's 20. They won in 2015 and won in 2017. Obviously, in 2019 was the weird missed extra point thing that cost the game. If they were to win this, it would be 3 out of 4.
Yeah, and I think that Ole Miss has shown that the more aggressive they are with bringing the blitz, the better they play defensively. So I think that as long as we are extremely aggressive in that aspect, I think we should hold our own from a defensive standpoint.
Yeah, and since Ole Miss has Jacob Springer and Otis Reese, I would put one of them and blitz one of them periodically and put one on the same size as Sam Williams to put their offensive line under distress, because Scott Lashley has struggled at times this year in the pass protection game and is probably the best way to speed up Will Rogers.
Yeah, I totally agree.
So, defensively, Ole Miss, believe it or not, Ole Miss is 60th in the country in scoring defense. They're in the top half of college football in scoring defense. That deserves an alert, a klaxon, however you want to look at it. But it's something to where there's one bad half at Auburn, but it would be 5 straight games of below 20 points.
Yeah, and I think the Auburn game, and I think you kind of took out the Auburn game, but we started really pressing. I think the more, like again, I think where we see ourselves being able to capitalize on what we're doing is when we bring aggressive pressure, and I do feel like the Auburn game, you have to. You have a running quarterback. They got him he got out of a few things that most quarterbacks would not have gotten out of. And so I think you got to put a little bit of an asterisk by that, because of the ability of their quarterback to be able to maneuver and wiggle out of some of those situations. But I think it's a testament to the team's growth, maturity, them understanding that, okay, we have this new defensive scheme, we got some new players, okay, and then you start seeing where you're getting carved up, then you get full complementary of Springer back, and you utilize them by bringing them close to the line. Just that's what you want to see from a coaching staff, is you want to be able to see them being able to manipulate and to be able to. It's like going into the halftime. You look at it and you go, okay, hey, this is we played pretty well, but let's see what are the adjustments that we need to do. And I think it's a testament to the coaching staff to say, hey, you know what, we're not going to stick with the same thing and just hope it gets better. We're going to manipulate it and find it and use and utilize how to use our players the best. And I think they've done a really good job at that.
Yeah. And I'm kind of looking forward to this game. Okay, before we get out of here, to put you on the spot, I don't know if I've done this all season, but I'll do it now. Give me a score for the Egg Bowl.
28-21, Ole Miss.
Okay. I went with 31-21, so we're in the same ballpark there. I think that if Ole Miss plays clean and doesn't play sloppy in Starkville, I think they have better players than Mississippi State. So if anybody is going to If it's a blowout win, Ole Miss got it. If it's a close win, either one can win it. If Ole Miss plays sloppy, State can get them.
Oh yeah, I mean I mean, the, that's
Mm.
I'm going with a lower scoring game just because of like you said,
The
the
rain.
weather
Mm.
and it needs to be Ole Miss has a better chance of being able to hold the ball. So yeah, this is a scary game, and
Mm.
Mississippi State's not a game a team right now that anybody just wants to play because they're peaking. So yeah, if Ole Miss does not come with a very aggressive defense and a really strong focus on the run, and Corral's going to have to get his legs involved in order for us to win. So I think he's got to run a little bit more than probably Kiffin's going to want to run, or his agent. But I think that's going to be part of our keys to win on offense is definitely the physicality, getting the run game going. But I think some of it's going to have to come from his legs.
All right. Bill Flowers, thank you very much for joining us today. When we come back, we'll break down next week the Egg Bowl and get ready to do some bowl speculation because I probably want to ask you a little bit
Absolutely.
about that 2003 Cotton Bowl as well. As well as
Yeah.
some Independence Bowls. I'm curious about that. So we'll start on that
Yeah.
next week. So, man, I appreciate it.
Man, I appreciate you. Hotty toddy, and have a wonderful Thanksgiving.
You too, man. Hotty toddy.
Bye bye.
Bye, man.